Hi, everyone, and welcome to the University of Washington Inclusionary Practices Professional Development Demonstration Site Project and webinar introducing Maple Elementary in Seattle Public Schools. Today, members of the Maple Elementary community are going to share their journey and highlight their school's inclusive practices for us. So our University of Washington Inclusionary Practices team at the UW Herring Center includes a number of important inclusion specialists, an incredible program coordinator, Molly Lyman, our project lead, Rena Marie Leon Guerrero, and our director, Eileen Schwartz. My name is Beth Kelly, and I will be walking us through the beginning of our webinar today, and I am joined by inclusion specialist and my colleague, Rebecca Ray. So first, just a little bit of a background about the Inclusionary Practices Project. The Inclusionary Practices Project, or IPP, was the result of a statewide effort to improve inclusionary practices across Washington state. After Washington rated 44th out of 50 of least inclusive states in the US, based on LRE data before the COVID-19 pandemic. And in the fall of 2019, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, or OSPI, launched the Inclusionary Practices Project to really address our state's lack of inclusion. So as part of IPP, the University of Washington Herring Center partnered with OSPI to coordinate and lead a rather large part of the project to create and support model demonstration school sites that engage in inclusionary practices across Washington state. I also just want to note that as of the fall of 2023, the IPP acronym has actually shifted to the acronym IPTN, or Inclusionary Practices Technical Assistance Network. And that change was really to acknowledge that inclusion in Washington state is not about a single project at a single point in time. Rather, it's really about an ongoing statewide mission that can benefit from a team or network of partners, really, to guide and support the mission of inclusion. So the IPTN has a network of about 15 partners, including us, of course, at the University of Washington College of Education and Herring Center, to increase inclusionary practices for students. And you can learn about each one of these organizations and really just broadly about the IPTN in general, if you would like, by scanning the QR code on this slide. Our part of the IPTN, the model demonstration site component, really includes about 15 early childhood, elementary, and secondary school and district sites across Washington state in multiple education service districts. And these demonstration sites were very specifically chosen to do several things: to model inclusive school sites and districts, to showcase implementation of high leverage inclusionary practices, some of which you're going to learn about today from Maple, to host visits to other schools and districts in Washington state and beyond to show those inclusionary practices in action, and also to increase equitable learning for all students. And I'll hand it over to my colleague, Rebecca.
So we put forth the idea that equity-based inclusive education is more than an instructional shift, that rather it is a cultural shift, that we all have a role in playing in dismantling barriers in order to create more inclusive schools and to promote positive social and academic outcomes for each and every student. And so under this understanding of the cultural shift, we prioritize collaboration and engaging all partners including family and community members, district leaders, school site leaders and educators, and all educators and specialists working with youth. We prioritize asset-based approaches to organizational and system change. We prioritize transforming how we engage in teaching and learning to ensure every student is a valued member of their school community by sharing our stories about inclusive education to provide transformational learning experiences. We also prioritize cycles of continuous improvement on the journey towards inclusive schools, and we prioritize innovative leadership across our system. And just a note here about how each demonstration site really is on their own journey. High leverage moves align to each and every individual school culture and priorities. So that is to say that the slide with the sites across the state on it, there are no two sites that are going to be at the same place on the spectrum of the inclusive journey. So for schools to have lasting impact, district scale and sustainability are critical. And so again, like each and every site across the state is at a various point in the journey of being a standalone school, perhaps, to moving towards wide district adoption of inclusive practices. But now I'd like to introduce Maple Elementary. We'll turn it over to Principal Barragan to introduce the Maple team.
Hi, my name is Daisy Barragan. I'm Maple's proud principal. And today you're going to be hearing from Michael Wheatley, our assistant principal, Teresa Matthews, our 4th and 5th grade case manager, and Ashley Thickman, 2nd and 3rd grade case manager. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about our staff. Our staff is very passionate and dedicated to student achievement. They love working with our children, partnering with our families. They really work really hard. And that shows in the recent award that we just received. So we received a Distinguished School Award for having exceptional student performance for 2 or more consecutive school years. So that makes me really proud because I know our teachers deserve this award. We really work hard and we love our children. And now I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Wheatley, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our demographics.
Hi, so I'm Michael Wheatley. I'm the assistant principal at Maple Elementary School. And I just want to share some information about our wonderful special community. Maple is a very diverse school, and that's something we cherish. We have a lot of racial diversity. We serve students from all around the world. We serve students and families who speak multiple languages. A large portion of our students, about 40%, receive multilingual services. The main languages spoken at our school are Cantonese, Mandarin, Toisanese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. We serve about 400 students, and in addition to our multilingual programming, we have 3 different special education service models that we support. So we support a resource program, 2 extended resource programs, and a K-5 focus program. For those of us who are not from Seattle Public Schools, those are 3 different models with different levels of restrictiveness. And so it translates to us serving students who spend between 40 and 100% of their day in their general education setting. And so we serve all these students in an open concept school, which means that for most of our students, except for 2 grade levels, they are learning in their homeroom classroom, which does not have walls or doors separating it from other homeroom classrooms, from the library, from the hallway. So there's a lot of chances for teachers and for students to be seeing each other and learning from each other. This is all made possible by the wonderful staff that Ms. Barragan was just telling us about. So that includes 29.6 certificated teachers. Some of them are split up between a couple buildings. We have 18 wonderful homeroom teachers, 4 different special education teachers. We have 3 different specialists, so art, music, and PE. 2.6 multilingual teachers supporting our program. We have 2 fantastic academic interventionists, and that group of staff has about 13 years of experience. Our multilingual and special education programs are also supported by some fabulous instructional assistants, and our school as a whole also receives both Title I and LAP funds. Maple's part of Seattle Public Schools, so We're located in Beacon Hill in the middle of Seattle. That's our lovely campus. And today we're really going to be highlighting the inclusive practices of our inclusive main schedule, the use of differentiated instruction in every grade level, our continuum model of special education services. So we serve all four of those programs, across a continuum within grade levels. And this year we've really dug into professional development and universal design for learning for our whole staff. So we're going to share about that today as well. And I'm going to pass it off to our principal, Daisy Barragan, who's going to introduce us to a Maple parent.
So yeah, in addition to our staff members that we have here today, Joseph, one of our parents, wanted to participate and share with you his experience that he's had here at Maple. His family is new to our community of this year, and he, like many of our families, English is not his first language. So he definitely wanted to make sure that he felt prepared and created a script for himself, and you'll be able to see that he's going to be reading that script for you all today.
Hi, my name is Joseph. I'm one of the parents here at Maple Elementary School. My son attends this school starting this recently. And the idea of learning in this school has been very instrumental in his development of education as well as behavior-wise. Our child has thrived observing peers, norms, and behaviors, and tailored supervision with general classrooms have been instrumental in fostering display of skills. Additionally, the focused atmosphere of small groups breakdown sessions have been invaluable in honoring his learning process and fostering skills development. In other settings we have explored in the past, children with individual education programs, IEPs, are often isolated in large halls or classrooms, hindering engagement with peers. We observe challenges with socialization, communication, and grasping norms, along with occasional exposure to inappropriate behaviors from others. We are grateful to be a part of Maple Elementary School and community that is diverse and inclusive.
Okay, now I'm going to share a little bit with you all our inclusion journey. It started about 9 years ago when I joined the Maple team. In that time, I've noticed that our staff, like I said, love to collaborate, come together, plan together. But one thing that I noticed also was that they weren't really digging deep in the student data. They were doing it individually, but not as a grade level team. So that was one of the areas that the principal at that time and I decided that we really wanted to provide that professional development to grow that teacher capacity. Another thing that I noticed was that staff was using all kinds of materials, instructional materials to teach both math and reading. And we really needed to have a solid, guaranteed, viable tier 1 curriculum in order for everybody to be receiving the same instruction across the grade level. That also would allow us to be able to provide differentiation and supports for all our students, not just one class or one specific group of students. So we definitely worked on for the next couple of years, making sure that teachers were having the right materials. And once the district was able to adopt a curriculum, that everybody knew how to use it and that they were implementing it in their classrooms on a daily basis. Once those two things were in place and our staff really understood what PLCs really mean and what that sounds and looks like, then we really needed to look at our master schedule. So if you see in the little circle, you will see these yellow blocks. So we needed to build in those times where students were able to be pulled out to receive differentiation or be in the classroom and also receive small groups. During this time, no tier 1 instruction is being taught, so no one would be missing instruction. And this is a very special school because we're an open concept school that we're able actually to move from one class to another. So it gives an opportunity for students not just to be with their homeroom teachers, but possibly maybe the next door teacher or the third teacher that's just on the other side of them. And kids are coming in and out, which is really cool because we're the Maple Monarchs. So we call our yellow blocks our migration blocks. So it's really fun. The kids are really into it. But what's really important is that students are not missing their tier 1 instruction, but are having the opportunity to really focus on their individual needs.
After all of that work that the school did, we started thinking about our special ed programs and how could we make it more inclusive for all of our students. In 2023, we visited an inclusive site. We went to Mark Twain Elementary, and we really saw the opportunities that we had and examples of things that we could be doing at our school. We came back to Maple energized and excited, and really looked at our mission and vision and figured out how could we, or thought about how we could make it more inclusive for all students at Maple. You know, we had 3 special ed programs. One of them was self-contained, and we wanted to make sure that all of our students felt welcome and included at Maple Elementary. So we began to look at what our inclusionary practices looked like. We started wondering, what are our personal and professional whys for making these changes? Our school mission and vision called for all students to be treated the same and all students to be gen ed students first. We also talked to families. Families wanted their students who had IEPs to be included in their gen ed classrooms as much as possible and be with their grade level peers. In 2016, Maple received or was assigned focus programs. We had a K2 classroom and a 3-5 classroom, and they each had a teacher and some instructional assistants. It soon turned into one K5 program with one teacher and all the students, kindergarten through 5th grade, in one classroom. They tried to push in with specialists, push in during social studies and science, push in with PE and music so that those students could be with their gen ed peers at certain points out of the day. When we visited Mark Twain, we began looking at opportunities for dismantling our program. They had a really nice example of how all their students could learn in the gen ed classroom as much as possible. We, in the 2013-2014 school year, we decided to dismantle our self-contained classroom and put all of the students in gen ed classrooms all day. Those students are fully integrated with their grade level peers. They have support from instructional aides. They are being exposed to tier 1 instruction with their grade level peers and pulled out into their case managers' classrooms when they are getting their individual instruction. Some of the challenges that we ran into, staffing was really hard. Being able to support all of those students in the classrooms just meant that we needed more instructional aides in the classrooms throughout the day. Also, the open concept at our school encouraged more elopement as well as more distractions for those students. And also the mindsets of some of the staff. Everyone was very used to having a self-contained classroom and having those students visit a few times a day. And so having them in the classroom all day was just a mindset shift that everyone needed to work on a little bit. But we started looking at, why are we doing these practices? We wanted to make sure that our kids were spending time with their peers and being exposed to grade level content. They are gaining more social skills by being with their grade level peers, and their academic gaps are being filled with that tier 1 instruction. They are spending more time with kids that are their age. They're playing with them at recess. They are building those relationships, and they're a lot stronger when they're spending more time in their classrooms. What did we find when we prompted this? After visiting other inclusive schools, we started to understand that inclusion is different for every child. We wanted to make sure that those students are getting what they need, but also having the exposure with the gen ed classrooms. We also were looking at MTSS and how can we make sure that all the students are gaining everything that they need to be successful in school. Some high leverage moves that have really been supportive for us. First, with the master schedule, having those 2 intervention enrichment blocks and daily SEL blocks. Having those specific times of the day where the kids are being pulled out and getting that direct instruction that they need without missing other things in their classroom has been instrumental to their social emotional learning, their social skills, and their success in school. Also, weekly grade level collaboration time is built into the schedule, which meant that when grade level teams are meeting, we can make sure that multilingual staff can attend those meetings, or the special ed staff can attend those meetings to make sure that the whole grade level is looking at every single child in that grade level and figuring out how to support them best. We also started building partnerships. In the fall, we had a UDL professional development with Andra Tisha Fitzgerald. Sorry. She, talked a lot about what we can do in our classrooms to really help support all students in learning. And we also are collaborating between buildings and districts so that we can share ideas and share things that are working for us so that all schools and all districts can be as successful as each other.
So one of the biggest things that we get to do at Maple that really supports success for all students is to implement that yellow block for differentiated instruction that is intervention and enrichment based. And this is something that we get to normalize for all of our kids, where they get to see that everyone is at a different place and everyone is celebrated for that difference, where there's no perception of being pulled out because somebody doesn't get the work. Instead, everybody gets extra support every single day with reading and math. And this could look like kids staying with their homeroom teacher, or they may go work with a multilingual teacher or a case manager or an instructional assistant or just another homeroom teacher. But everyone is receiving individualized support so that we can focus on the students at their level of need and not based off of a label that they may have received at some point in the past. In order to continue strengthening our differentiated instruction at Maple, our next steps really want us to focus on building our teachers' capacity to support all of our students. And that includes several different steps, such as identifying specific needs students may have where we might need to strengthen our instructional strategies, or providing differentiated professional development to meet these needs, or even identifying resources that we need where we may have a gap that could really benefit our kids. And then we'll take all of that information and put it into practice and really work with our kids to give them access to choice and activities during their Monarch migration to strengthen their reading and math skills, regardless of where they come to us at. Our continuum of services really is focusing on dismantling our self-contained program, which you've heard from Ms. Matthews and Ms. Barragan and Mr. Wheatley. And we're really proud of that because our kids get to be in their general education classroom with their peers, and they get access to that tier 1 instruction with their peers. They get to learn from each other. They also get to learn in social and emotional scenarios that may not have been provided to them in a self-contained program. And this is really great because our kids get to work together regardless of where they fall on a continuum of exceptionality and how they may need support. To continue that process, we are going to, again, continue to really build the teachers' capacities to provide that differentiated support within their tier 1 instruction, and identify what students need based on their instructional needs, not on a program that they may be identified with. And this stems past our extended resource and focus identification, but also includes our multilingual identifications, where we look at what kids need and not what they're identified as. And that allows us to really truly implement co-teaching strategies and collaborate between the entire school to provide instructional support.
The other area we really wanted to highlight was universal design for learning. So as Ms. Matthews said, one of the partnerships we've built with Andre Tisha Fitzgerald and with the UW Herring Center has been around professional development for universal design for learning. Because as we've dismantled our self-contained program, our kids are spending so much more time in the classroom receiving tier 1 instruction. And so that tier 1 really needs to be high quality and accessible to all of our kids. The way that that's happened is through the use of visuals. So we have a lot of visuals this year that are focused on classroom routines, learning routines. So things like visual schedules, and some of our younger grades that do rotations. There's visuals on the board for each rotation, each activity, pictures of the teachers so that the students know which teacher they're going to be working with during that time. Lots of visuals everywhere. We also have several students who use augmented communication devices. And so we're trying to build a culture that really normalizes the use of visuals as a communication tool. We're also thinking about different entry points for learning. So those kind of low floor, high ceiling tasks where students can really get engaged in their learning in a lot of different ways. Often what that looks like is student choice. So student choice around how they participate in some of our assessments, student choice for how they complete some of their independent work, really building students' capacities to make choices about what's going to be effective for their learning. Something that Ms. Barragan has really led throughout her time here at Maple has been the use of self-assessment, which also really helps our students build their capacity to be expert learners and make good choices for their own learning. So if you're ever visiting Maple, you'll see really consistent language across the school about different levels of proficiency with a skill. So students talk about being novices, apprentices, practitioners, or experts. Those self-assessments are built in all sorts of different ways. There are kindergarten teachers who have students move a little person magnet around to score themselves, and then they talk about, why did you put yourself at that level? In some of our upper grades, it looks like at the end of an assignment or of a summative assessment, there's a piece at the bottom that involves self-assessment. And that self-assessment is really possible because we've also built a culture focused on learning targets. So being really clear with students about what they're learning that day, what it looks like to demonstrate proficiency at that learning target, and how it fits in with their broader learning. Our next steps within Universal Design for Learning are to continue some of the things we did this year and to kind of broaden the scope of them. So this year, as we dove into Universal Design for Learning, we were really thinking about a couple of priority strategies and building alignment for those across the building. If you've ever looked at the UDL guidelines, they're really expansive and there's lots of different things that could be focused on. It can feel really overwhelming to get in, so we wanted to focus on just a couple as a staff and build our capacity in a more focused way. So we're going to continue doing that next year with some additional priority strategies. We're going to continue having learning walks for our teachers to be able to see those priority strategies in action, to learn from each other, to borrow some ideas, to be able to collaborate and ask questions about how implementation is going in their classroom. And one area where we want to grow is providing more opportunities for students to provide feedback about strategies, tools, instructional practices that really worked for them. We kind of got a taste for that this year with the new student growth goals. So students are involved in providing feedback in their learning and reflecting on their learning in that way. But as they're self-assessing and connecting to those really clear learning targets, we also want them to provide feedback to their teacher more regularly about the strategies and supports that are working for them.
Okay, as we wrap up, we want to encourage you to learn more about Maple Elementary, explore their artifacts, and also to visit the IPP demonstration sites page at ippdemosites.org. You also there will find inclusionary practices resource, artifacts, and additional tip sheets. And with that, an enormous thank you to Ashley, Teresa, Daisy, and Michael and the entire Maple community for your sharing about all of your commitments to enacting inclusive practices, and we can't wait to follow you on your journey. Thanks.